Let's play on Lichess. I don't play on Lichess enough. Is there a tournament at this hour? Sort of midway through one. Let's play a few 3-minute games on Lichess. As always, Lichess is a wonderful site. I'm going to go for a Lowenthal Sicilian if I get the chance. Now we're going to play a weird d6 anti-c3. Often my knight can be chased around a lot here, and I get quite a passive position if so. I can't take on e4 because of queen a4 check. Alright, I should slow down. We're not playing bullet anymore, are we? Gonna try to take on d5. I tend to like positions more when they have to take back e-pawn than c-pawn. I want to trade a center pawn rather than my center pawn for their bishop pawn. So I will take if given the chance. Alright, can just retreat, I think. If they take on e6, I take back f. They can insert bishop b5 check, I think I block. It does force me to take back f in a lot of lines, but I was intending to take back f anyway, so... Now I'm threatening knight e4 as well. I'm going to pre-move fe6. They should look to break up my pawns with e5, and I don't have a good way to prevent it. Because if I play e5 and they play f5, I think my knight is pretty awkwardly placed. But maybe someday I have the d5 break there. And if I play d5, that would avoid the breaking up of my pawns. So I should probably consider that. I think I'm just going to develop this turn, but I should look at d5 in future turns. I'm going to castle first. And then if I get the chance, play d5, and if they play e5, go knight e4. So if they play e5, I can't play d5 in response. But if I play d5 first, I can stop them playing e5 and forcing me to say play d5, breaking up my c and e pawns, and suddenly my e pawn is a big weakness. Now my e pawn should not be such a big problem. So I think strategically my position is improving. They did not take, which was smart, except that I can take on f4 now, right? Okay. I think I just retreat. And I think we have gained tactically and strategically. Now where does my knight go? I think g4. It's with tempo, and I can come back to h6, and if I come back now, I don't have to worry about them taking, and I can reroute to f5. So yeah, I think I want to do that at this moment. I'm ahead on the clock, playing like it was a bullet at the start. Did not harm me. And we're up a pawn, nice center. I think my king is pretty safe. I think I'm just going to defend the pawn. Do I have anything active to do? I can take on e3, but I like my knight on f5. So I think I'm just going to keep my pawns together. Alright, they wanted to keep their bishop, which makes sense. Not everyone loves their knights. Knight f4 threatens d3, but I figure they just make a move like queen d2, and I don't know what I've accomplished. Maybe rook f7 and rook f8 is a good way to double my rooks on a half-open file. I don't think they're threatening c4, I'll just play d4 in response. Though maybe at some point I should play queen c7 to just keep a little bit of a tighter eye on e5 and make sure they have trouble moving their pieces. I could also look to trade pieces with a move like knight h4. I think I'm going to start with queen c7 and then try to trade pieces with knight h4. Because we are up a pawn here. Yeah. Ooh, there might be a worry if they take twice, bishop takes, and they have queen g4 at the end, where they hit my bishop and my pawn on e6. But I'm hitting e1 there. So I may have lucked out, and that might be okay. Alright, I guess I'm just going to play knight f5. I still think my knight on h4 I think is better than their knight on d2, and those are really the pieces we would be trading if I took. I think I'm going to play h6. It might have problems if g4 someday, but I like the idea of defending g5, not needing my bishop tied to defending it. Now I have knight e3. Maybe queen c6 while the pieces are disconnected. Do I have anything more precise? I don't see it. Could also consider bishop h4, g3, bishop retreats. Just force the weakness. Huh. Let's play queen c6 first. My point on bishop h4 is if knight h4, I take their rook. So yeah, let's play bishop h4. Knight g4 is also an important move to consider. I would guess they're going to sack an exchange on e3 at some point in the near future. I think they have to play g3. Knight g3. Okay. That makes me look at knight g2, but I think they can take back king. Oh, I'm low on time. Okay. So I'm just going to make some quick moves. My knight's very good. Probably just going to come back to e3, just was delaying them sacking for a turn. Yeah. Such things are pretty inevitable. Let's come over here. Check from the side. Try to checkmate or double up rooks. Let's check and then come back. If they go here, that's mate. Alright. I think that was a pretty nice game overall. It was a little shaky in the opening, but I think their slow f3, f4, maybe it was a mouse slip. And then I think I probably should have played d5 before I did, but it was a good strategic move. And they had the nice idea of not taking, which would give me this nice center and leave their f-pawn kind of alone. But when they played knight d2, they hung a pawn. And I think for the most part, I handled the resulting position pretty well. And then didn't clock, which is very important. Alright, 1 for 1. Will I ever go 5 for 5 on stream? Unlikely. I'm going to play the English. I don't think I've ever played that before on a stream. I like knight c3 next. Some people play g3. I played g3 next turn anyway. There were some move order reasons. I don't exactly remember what they were. When they play c6, they can't play knight c6, so I look to hit their pawn quickly. Yeah, this is supposed to be a pretty good line for white. I'm going to come back to for black. I'm going to come back to b3. Like, this is a player who knows what they're doing. And they are asking tough questions of my knight. Guess I'm going to play a4, but this gives up the b4 square forever, and they should look to occupy it. Maybe I should have played d3, given my knight away out here. They do have to defend d4. So they'll probably play d5, and I was thinking b5 might be a nice outpost for me. I'm going to take, and then maybe play d3 next. Intending to take back e, because their king's still in the center, and because my b3 knight is potentially weak, because my queen's the only defender. Yeah, I think I really kind of have to play d3 to free myself a little. Maybe bishop e3 is coming. I can pre-move taking back pawn. I'd like to play knight b5 at some point, I think. I'd like to play bishop e3. Maybe now is the time for bishop e3, while I have d4 under control. I could have also taken on e4, which I surely considered less than I should have. I was very excited about bishop e3. This is blitz, not bullet. I can slow down, and certainly should. Yeah. So they defend d4. Maybe bishop d2. This looks a little silly. I probably should have taken e4 last turn, but I threaten knight takes d5. They can take on d3, and I probably have to take back on d3, because if knight d5, they can throw in de2. So maybe I can just play queen e2 there. So if they play d3, ed3, I'll have to start calculating. Okay, knight d5, de2, queen e2. Queen b3, I take e7, I'm not ahead material there. All right. I'm going to play f3, but I think they're playing this nicely, and I am not. Because now I probably have to play something like king h1, because now knight d5 is, yeah, met by queen checks. Ooh. This is a tough one. I guess we have to go d4. That knight on b3 has been a very poor piece for me. And I'm not quite sure how to get out of the pressure there. Okay. This might offer ways. So they're threatening bishop c2. And if I play rook c1, they have moves. Okay, this might not offer a way. I was thinking there's stuff on the b file now, so my knight has a chance to move. But does it really? Doesn't have squares. Ooh. What can we do? Knight b5, bishop c2 is terrible. Knight c5, give up a pawn. I have the two bishops. It's not good, but it could be worse. They actually have they could probably play knight c2 even there. So I want knight b5, I want rook c1, I'm not entirely sure the order. I think I'm going to start with knight b5. They have bishop d3 here, but I was thinking on rook c1, knight d3, my rook is annoyed. I'd rather the rook c1 move come with tempo. And they play knight d3 instead of bishop d3. Hitting b2. I'm going to play bishop g5. Oh, they also threaten knight f2. Ooh, what a nightmare. Well, I'm going to play bishop g5 anyway, because I really would like to take on f6. I think I need to inflict a weakness on them, or I'm going to have no chance to do anything clever here. They're just going to... They have a better position and they're up a pawn. So I'm going to try to create counterplay somewhere. Yeah, so we're going to give up an exchange. Then I'm going to take d5. Possibly rook f1 next, hitting f5. Do I even do anything here? I don't know. Maybe... Let's hit the f6 pawn. Let's play queen d6. They can take b2 and defend it, so this is all a bit ridiculous. They make so many threats. Okay, h4. I currently defend g3. I have a square to run with my king. They should probably just take on b2. I'm sure this is good too. I am threatening knight c7. But I will never have time for it because they are playing nice and actively. Okay, I'll take that. Yeah, I like how they played this game a lot. I think they've done a nice job of it. Maybe knight d5 if rook e8. I was hoping I had a discovery. I don't. But keep them eyed on f6. That's not a real fork. Alright, nice win by them. 1 for 2. Alright. I have to learn what to do in that that line with c6 where I go knight f3, they go e4, I play knight d4. I'm going to play a Sicilian. Look to play a Lowenthal. I like e5 here. If they take on c6, dc6. If they take on e5, I have queen d4, much like in some similar Roy Lopez lines, forking e4 and d4. So they usually leave it, and I'm probably going to play bishop d6, knight e7. Possibly the knight comes to g6, but possibly it supports the f5 advance. So I defend my pawn. I'm thinking maybe insert c4 at some point. It looks a little weakening, but I can then trade my doubled pawn anytime they want to get their bishop out. So I'm going to try it. I'm a little worried that like queen e2, bishop e6, knight a3, maybe they can harass the pawn and force me to do some things I don't want to. So this might have been overly optimistic, but I thought if something like this happens, then I have traded kind of the one weakness in my position away. Now normally I'd be looking for f5 advances here. If their bishop comes to b2, I think they'll play f6 though, and just try to shut it down. So if knight c4, I guess I'll play just knight g6, make sure e5 is defended so I can spend time moving the bishop. They might play bishop a3, I have rook e8, I think everything's under control. I would like to play bishop e6 next, I think. But possibly I'm being too passive and should look for f5. I don't think so. Okay. So gotta do something about a7. I could play b5 and a5. That's an interesting expansion. I think I'm gonna try that. Gain a little space on the queen side. Have potential to create a passed pawn with a4 later. Bishop e6 will look over at that side of the board. I would guess they'll play... Ooh. This is not what I would have guessed. I think I'm just going to play bishop e6. At some point, the d and e pawns will now be traded, and I'll have this 3-on-2 on the queen side, and I'll have this 4-on-3 on the king side. I currently have d5 under control, so I'm going to delay a little before taking. But now if I take, my bishop on e6 is very poorly placed when their knight takes back. So that might have been kind of inaccurate. Maybe queen d7. I may have put my pieces on the wrong squares. Okay, let's play queen d7. If they play knight g5, I will lose the two bishops, but what can you do? In some imaginary worlds, I can take on h3 and then play like knight f4. And that gets more imaginable if I've inserted a move like rook e8 or rook d8. Probably rook d8. Queen h5, h6 I don't think is a worry. They still don't have d5. So I am probably going to take on d4 next. Yeah, I think I'm going to take on d4. Knight h4 doesn't seem very useful. Maybe just bishop b6, d5. Ooh, don't want to blunder that. Let's just come back to e8. Keep c6 under control in case they play e5. Prepare bishop b6 without falling into anything. Hit d4. I'd probably be happy to trade the c for the d pawns and then try to rush my a pawn. Okay, I guess I probably have to take. Interesting. That does make sense. Maybe knight e5. The queen has a bunch of squares it can go that hang knight d3. They did not go to any of them. Now can I play cd5 and rook d5? They definitely get some initiative for this, if so. I can insert g6. They can't come to f6 because of knight d7, so they have to be careful. They were duly careful. Maybe queen e6. Just try to keep my knight on e5 as long as I can. They can take on b5, though. They, of course, do. What to do? King g7 prepares f6, which solidifies the knight. Might give me a little time to free myself. Alright, their point is rook a5, queen d8. I'm going to play f6. Break the queen's pressure on d8. And try to play this position. We're both low on time. I have the queen, so it's easier for me to make threats. But maybe g4. Alright, well, I hung my queen, but they hung mate after. Alright, 2 for 3. Not the best game. Let's play f4. Go for a polar bear. Probably play e4 next, because they let me. I think this kind of closed Sicilian is called the cramp, where you play c3 and avoid knight d4. I think I'll take back bishop. Maybe knight a3 and c4, knight a3 and b5 to hit the d6 pawn. But I do probably need to control the d5 square. Maybe not, though. If they play d5, I'm going to have e5, and then I can follow with controlling that square. Alright, so they instead hit the bishop. Bishop g5 might induce a weakness. If bishop f6, I'll retreat anyway, but their bishop's slightly misplaced on f6. Knight b5 now comes with tempo, but they'll get it back soon. So instead I'll just move the queen. Slightly improve it, defend the bishop, stop bishop g4 from pinning a knight to my queen. I'm just working on drawing arrows. The arrows are not particularly important lines necessarily. If knight b5 doesn't do anything now, I really like keeping a move like that in reserve, because they have to keep checking if it does anything, and so I can just like leave it on the board as a potential threat for a long time. I can play d4. Maybe I should, because if they take on f3, they have to worry about bishop h5, and their knight doesn't really have a great square. If they, for instance, take and then come to c4, then I can go to c1 probably and pin the knight to the queen. Again, just drawing arrows. Alright, so they weren't interested in any of this. And my center could be loose. What if I play h3? Where does your knight go? Ah, g3 is hanging. Boo. But, okay. That was a smart one to take. I thought I'd only noticed they could take a g4. I guess I don't want them to get both pawns, so I'm going to play knight h2, hit the rook, and defend g4. Someday maybe knight b5 in reserve will come useful, but it doesn't seem the most likely at this point. Maybe bishop f4, threaten it. Knight b5 next. That's the idea. So I can play knight d5, they bring their queen to b6 or something, I play knight d6, and they take on c3 with discovered check. So I probably have to take back. I think I can play knight b5 now. If a6, knight d6, bishop d4, king h1, I don't think I mind my king on h1, and they have some things to defend. And I start threatening, because if my knight's on d6, I start threatening knight f7, because king f7, then the bishop has discoveries. And if they have opened up the game because these pawns are gone, that means their queen on a dark square could be potentially weak. I'm going to take on d6. Bishop d7 was probably a smarter way to do it than a6. They developed these. They did it the way that forces queens off. So do I want my bishop on f4 or d2? Probably f4. So I could take on f7. I could take on b7. I could save my b pawn. Lot of choices. I really kind of think they're going to play bishop c6 next, which makes me want to take on b7 first, because their rook I don't think has a useful file to go to. Because everywhere's scary. My bishop's on this one. So if I move the knight, I have discoveries, but they're admittedly not the most useful. I think I'm going to keep my pawn. Their bishop can't dislodge my knight this turn. They can take on a4, but that seems slightly less important pawn to me. Okay, did I miss something? I missed bishop c6. Ooh, bad thing to miss. Nice move. And my position, I just can't move now. Yeah. I think this is resignable. But I shall play on slightly longer. Totally missed rook b7 and bishop c6. That was good. Play bishop b8. I'll push what I got. But it's not much. Hopefully they make some horrible blunder like rook g3 where my bishop can take it. Backward bishop retreats are kind of the most often missed thing in chess. That's my dream. Probably play king h2 next turn if given the chance. Sidestep pins. Okay. Bishop b5, is that what they're doing? If I play real fast and they play real bad, then the dream is alive. I'm going to try to bring my king to c6. The thing is, they can give up their rook for my pawn, and they're probably still winning. Ooh, they can't do this, though. Yeah, but I'm too slow. Alright, 2 for 4. Very much deserved to lose that one. Don't mind losing it. I really like the 4 knights, so I'm going to play that. That doesn't really affect my side of the board too much, so I feel free to, break open the center a little when I see a slightly passive move. They probably should not take twice. My queen's pretty good and stable in the center of the board like this. Maybe f4, think about f5. I also don't mind the idea of bishop b5 check, just inducing c6. I don't think it's right. I think they'll probably have to play c6 anyway, but I like playing against the d6 pawn. I'm intending to castle the opposite way they do and then shove my pawns up. Now the d6 pawn is weak. So I am going to look to pressure it. Simple chess. Let's play f5. Do I want to castle queenside? I think if I do, they feel freer to castle queenside themselves. But okay. If we both castle queenside, I still probably push moves like g4 and try to expand. Maybe bishop f3 is a useful move, stabilizing my center in advance of them playing bishop c6. Yeah, let's start with that. But looking at g4, g5, driving away the defender of d5, and then playing knight d5 myself. E5 is a useful square. True. Good point. And then c4 could be useful. No, I've misplayed this now. I have to worry about bishop f6. I have to worry about knight e5. Alright, bishop back to e2. I don't want to trade my dark squared bishop for the knight, because I'd like to win this game, and I think in this kind of position that would be hard with opposite bishops. Opposite bishops can be very good for winning chances if there are attacking prospects. I don't really think I have them here on the king. I would like to play g5, keep expanding on the king side. Alright, g5, their point's knight d3 check. I take it, they take on b2. Am I scared? I don't think so. I think my king is Holmes. Probably deserves more calculation than I gave it, because if I get this wrong, I lose the game on the spot. Because my idea is I take bishop, and my king will have the e2 square. I was thinking they would play knight d3 and I'd take bishop d3. Now they might get, they do get c2 in a lot of lines. I guess I can come to d3 now, though. And they don't have an immediate check. If b5, I might play something like queen a8 at some point. But they should probably play b5. Yeah, they will get the piece back. So the board gets awful open there. Okay. Now do I have rook b1? Because I have checkmate on b7. Right. Yeah, now I can take queen. And if they take bishop, I can play rook b1 again with the same idea. Alright, went 3 for 5. Did alright. Did great shame to my lucky purple shirt, but what you gonna do? Cheers.